Hello and welcome to System Administration class. For you to see the job of a system administrator, you get root in the matrix. Let us talk about the job of a system administrator. As a system administrator, we view ourselves as the hero of our story and all the other participants in our tiki world as buffons. But it is also true that we are often seen by others, well, not necessarily in a positive light. Let's think of an example of what a system administrator does. I mean, other than flipping off everybody else and single-handedly rescuing mankind. Here's the example. You gotta touch the banana for Wi-Fi access, says the admin. Or says the sysadmin or system administrator. I like this. It's an example of the word situations since admins find themselves in and how they might solve the problem. In order to grant people time-limited Wi-Fi access, a receptionist would have to manage a spreadsheet and print out the codes. Instead, this person rig a Raspberry Pi to a banana and use the voltage drop detected when you touch the banana as a signal to generate a new code. It's an example of automating a manual task with a clever and frequently unexpected creative solution. A very admin thing to do, but let us try to be more specific on what exactly does a system administrator do. Sure, system admins work with computers, as you can see in slide, with all sorts of computers, with workstations, with obsolete ancient hardware, with laptops. With tiny little computers like this Raspberry Pi, which we just saw in action. But of course, also with larger computers. What you see here is an HP blade or the Hewlett-Packard blade system used in data centers to allow the multiple physical servers enclosed in a single chassis. These boxes are then filled with server blades that are space and energy efficient and are connected using high-speed network and storage networks, often with hot swap capabilities and out-of-band management capabilities. Perhaps optimize for virtual servers, allowing for high compute density. But of course, you can scale that up. Here you see a set of SGI Altec systems, which are oftentimes used to build some of the world's most powerful supercomputers, with each systems containing up to 2048 or 2048 dual-core microprocessors. And yes, they are large enough for you to step into these racks if they weren't full of computers and capabilities. But of course, nowadays people don't only run their tasks on individual servers or CPUs, but instead on containers. So many containers everywhere. So naturally, a systems admin or sysadmins have to be on top of the containers and how to manage workloads using Docker and Kubernetes and whatnot. You'll see plenty of online memes here around containers and shipping codes. So naturally, we take it all the way to 11 and think about how to manage the infrastructures. That is, we're in the business of building shipping ships to ship containers into our servers in the data centers in the cloud. There is probably a recursion joke hidden somewhere in there as well. But yes, sysadmin often work in data centers and some of them look just like this. Well, to be honest, this isn't a real data center. It's the view of the local machine room At a company, you see as a typical setup with lock cages, racks along aisles with raised floors, boxes and shelves of equipment, and cables going just about anywhere. It's kind of a mess. So along comes a sysadmin. Grabs their cable ties. A second favorite tool of all sysadmins, the mighty label maker. Unquiet, likely an unhealthy amount of caffeine or some other perfectly legal drug, and after just a few sleepless nights. We have cleaned up the mess. That is a systems admin being ordered to chaos. There's no shortage of OCD in our field, but we prefer to consider this level and meticulously a virtue, a dedication to doing the right thing, knowing that this investment of time and effort will later pay off many times over when we need to determine which cable connects which host to which switch port, for example. There is an entire sub-EDET dedicated to the art of clean data center cages, racks, and overall cable porn. By the way, not all of these cables are necessarily manually run by a sysadmin. At a certain scale, you may be able to order your racks pre-cabled already, although others consider that as cheating. Okay, so a clean data center aisle might look more like this. It's just like what a winery will look like. As you can tell, blue blinking lights are very popular as it is a tendency to keeping things identical. So with the larger and larger computing requirements, you end up filling aisle after an aisle of racks filled with servers. And then you have to start thinking about calling for all these systems. So sysadmins may be involved in a design of data centers under calling technologies. What you see here is not a farm. In the middle of nowhere is in the Nebraska, but rather a data center in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska, one of the Yahoo data centers to be precise. So this is where Yahoo company built. The buildings have a kind of funny shape, if you have noticed, because the data centers use a patented approach for calling, the Yahoo chicken coop design. Nope, not a joke. The engineers at Yahoo, including system administrators, designed their data centers, so that is why it looks like that. Inspired by how chicken coops distribute airflow, as a result of requirements for cooling systems using air conditioners or other electrical systems went down drastically, and the majority of the calling is done simply by, in a way, opening the windows. And those data centers have all sorts of access controls, including security cameras and biometric readers, all of which nowadays are hooked up to the internet, run a web server, and suffer from remote code execution vulnerabilities that some poor sysadmin has to try to patch to otherwise mitigate. Network design with segregated zones for such equipment then also we fall into the job description of a sysadmin, or we may simply be users of these controls as we monitor their output. But of course, to install such equipment, every sysadmin everywhere has a giant box or a drawer full of random cables, because for some reason, no manufacturer in the world wants to use the same cable as any other manufacturer, not even when you are using industry standards like USB. which in order to drive your insane comes in 30 varieties, and the history of the internet not once has anybody plugged in a USB cable the right way on the first try. So connecting things is definitely a sysadmin thing, which reminds me of the various projectors used in classrooms, which was a big problem since different faculty would use different devices and would never have the right adapters. So a few semesters back then, it was discovered these contraptions in every classroom, which seemed to be a like sysadmin solution, a selection of the most common adapters chained to a projector cable. But of course, cables are often not needed any longer either, and everything goes wireless, which brings with the entire class of other problems. Because now you have to support people working in an environment you don't control, and which may in fact just be an invitation for compromise. Because you can be guaranteed that somewhere in that Starbucks, some clever CS Major has a setup of rogue Wi-Fi access point and is now sniffing all your traffic. But if the user can't get to your website, that's still your fault. And on the other hand, if you are the sysadmin for Starbucks here, you have the problem supporting infrastructure for random people while making sure they don't use your systems for things you'll be held liable for good times or God times. So you go back to your desk and wait, that is this now? All right, a punch card. That's how we used the program a long time ago. You wrote your code, arranged your punch cards in order, then walked them over to the operator, who would hope would feed them into the computer, but who in reality may have dropped all your cards, and you now have to put them back into the right order. Well, at least we don't have to do that anymore. Although now we have to deal with undefined is not a function and similar nonsense. But we do write a lot of code as system administrators, and we do a lot of typing in general, so to do our wrist a favor. We should use some ergonomic keyboards like this. Kinesis keyboard shown here, if you have noticed. These keyboards are amazing. They remind you that you probably suck at touch typing. I certainly do for previous years. One of the CS professors used one of these keyboards when I have in college, and I quickly learned that I didn't actually remember my passwords very well, that they were all in my muscle memory, and it took me a good minute to log in on his keyboard. Of course, it didn't help that he had changed his keyboard layout to DVORA key instead of the QWERTY standards. I soon stashed a spare keyboard in his office, so if I had to work on his system, I'd able to type normally. Anyway, so sysadmins do a lot of typing, and of course, do the vast majority of our work on the command line. That is, we operate on the console, the black screen that you have on screen, day in and day out. System administrators know or should know anyway what all these messages flying by here mean, as each one is not generated by the operating system for fun, but to provide some meaningful information. But what you see is a NetBSD EMD64 virtual machine booting up with kernel messages in green and messages generated once init or NIT takes over in white, getting a DHCP list starting SSHD, postfix, CRON, etc. and finally offering the login prompt. Most of the time, we don't even see those messages since we're doing the majority of our work remotely over the internet. Right, the internet. That's certainly something system administrators have a lot to do with. We use the internet and we build the internet. A network of networks as illustrated in the partial map. But of course, to do that, we need other equipment beyond just computers. So, system administrators also deal a lot with network equipment like these Ethernet switches shown here. Switches allow for network connections on layer 2 of the OSI stack, which we're all rather familiar with but which all rather familiar with you, but if you want to build a more complex network and connect to other networks, you also need some routers like this one. You can tell that this has a similar form factor and design in the Blade server systems we saw a minute ago, and of course it's no surprise. In order to facilitate installation in the standardized racks inside the data centers, this equipment follows the same standards and can also often be extended or upgraded in a similar manner by swapping out individual bladers, hooking into the backplane within this chassis, depending on your routing needs. So why do we deal with all this networking equipment? Oftentimes, it's because as system administrator, we're in the charge of a server running some service using HTTP as the universal protocol. Although, of course, we certainly hope that it's also using TLS to secure the connections. But this isn't quite that a normal infrastructure look like this is it. For starters, we usually have more than just one web server, and we probably have to store some data in the redundant database. Then we add a load balancer in front of the web servers and probably decide that we don't allow just any traffic perhaps by using a firewall to create a security perimeter around the web server. And of course, as we grow our infrastructure, we probably need to add some sort of messages queue, system, a large storage array, and perhaps we add Zookeeper to juggle some services. And of course, we need to allow some of our engineers and developers access, so we let their laptops, workstations, and mobile devices access these internal resources. But these silly humans have a tendency to want to go home sometime. Or maybe there's a pandemic going on just like now, and all of a sudden, people aren't in the office anymore. So you need to allow folks from outside your perimeter access. So what's more, you probably have to integrate with a bunch of third-party services. To integrate, because nowadays, everything lives in a cloud. And come on, if you're not using GitHub, Jira, and Slack, can you really call yourself a hip starting ready to make the world a better place? Of course you can't. So you punch some holes into the firewalls to let disconnections in. And sooner or later, your boss tells you that they decided that I'd be much better to take your entire infrastructure. Move that into the cloud? Why not? So suddenly you are running on somebody else's computers because honestly, that's really all the cloud is somebody else's computers. But yeah, So system administrators are involved in building, supporting, and maintaining just about every piece of this puzzle. And I tell you what, nobody will notice. Well, until things go wrong in a way which they will sooner or later, and this when shit's really on fire, that's when people will suddenly remember you and call you up to come and fix the mess. And so you grab your trusty Leatherman multi-tool and get to work. Seriously, just about every sysadmin I know has one of these tool presented on screen, because you never know that you find in the machine room what things you have to unscrew, dislodge, or dismantle, and then put back together. In fact, there is a surprising number of physical tools that the system administrators end up using in their line of work. Like for example, you have a circular saw, which doesn't necessarily come to mind immediately when you think of system administration. But after a few runs to the hardware store for increasingly stronger drill bits to get the holes into the surprisingly hard concrete floors to screw in the rock, I once only be able to stabilize a number of very heavy backup batteries in that rack by cutting some boards to size to support them using just such a saw as shown in your screen. And perhaps this gives you an idea on how buried the system admin's path can be. Not everybody will have to handle heavy machinery, but the ways in which the systems are connected may lead you down that path. Inevitably, we are dealing with systems that require electrical power, and so you may also get to learn a bit about what happens when the power goes out and why it might be a good idea to have a diesel generator, and to remember that for that to work, you need to have diesel fuel, as well as to understand just how much power your systems draw, which systems have a higher priority to bring back online. Alright, so long story a bit shorter, every sysadmin has their own toolbox from which they pull what they need to fix whatever is broken today. A lot of times that involves duct tape and WD-40 or their software programming equivalents. You may have heard people refer to Perl as the duct tape of the internet, and boy, folks weren't even kidding. If you ever look under the hood of the internet, you will be surprised on how things are held together, and in your career as a system administrator, you will get a chance to learn quite a bit about the layers of a glue here. Ultimately, though the single most important tool in the system administration chest is your brain. You'll have to come up with new solutions to old problems, apply old solutions to new problems, and anything in between. Whether you end up supporting people's workstations, run internet load bearing infrastructure in the cloud, design and operate data centers, or manage everything in between, this profession requires a lot of ingenuity and curiosity. Okay, so after this whirlwind tour through John's random collection of images, are we any closer to answering the questions we asked earlier? What exactly does a system administrator do? Can't be a uniform job description, that there is no uniform career path, and that admins oftentimes are just considered as a people who make things run. That is, we frequently work behind the scenes, rarely being seen unless disaster strikes, and so the system administrator may fill many roles and some instead be referred to as IT support, operator, network administrator, system programmer, system manager, service engineer, site reliability engineer, or any other variation thereof. In more recent years, the two main other job titles besides system administrator widely used were DevOps and SRE. And the differences shown here really are not as specific. Rather, it depends on whatever the organization defines the role to be. What's DevOps is one organization is sysadmin in another. And an SRE may perform the same or completely different tasks depending on the company. In fact, the title used is often a function of organization maturity and scale. It's no surprise that the term site reliability engineering originated in part at Google, where it was described as what happens when a software engineer is tasked with that used to be called operations. That is, the various areas that may comprise the day-to-day duties of somebody working in this field might be illustrated as shown here. In a small environment, you likely only have a small number of staff performing these tasks. Perhaps only a single person, and they are responsible for everything ranging from daily operational tasks to the planning of the services and infrastructure they support. In a larger environment, however, these duties are divided amongst people or multiple people and in even larger organizations amongst multiple specialized teams of experts. You can come back to this graphic as you progress in system administrator career if you like. But unfortunately, this still doesn't really give us the definition of system administration. So let's try something else. Let's ask the dictionary, what is a system anyway? Let's see. Here, how about this? A group of independent but interrelated elements comprising a whole. I like that. What about administrator? One who directs, manages, or dispenses. And system administrator then, a person in charge of managing and maintaining a computer system of telecommunication system as for business institution. So this definition then seems pretty good to me as it hits a few important aspects. First, there is a clear application of the job comprising multiple aspects with the management of computer and network systems being only the primary but not the sole responsible of the system administrator. Secondly, the job of system administrator is clearly to manage these resources on behalf of another, meaning that is a larger organization or systems involved beyond just individual goals or desires. So I'm afraid running your own home network does not make you a sysadmin. But let us consider the meaning of the word system for just another second. In this class, we'll focus primarily on computer human systems consisting of, obviously, the branch of computers, the network connecting these computers, but also the human component, since a system without user is quite literally useless. That is the users. And of course, which unfortunately is something that is easy to forget at times. Similarly, the users may act as a certain way that may or may not be in line with. And you have also the organization goals and policies. As noted a second ago, the primary job function of a administrator is to manage these systems on behalf of another, such as a company or other organization, and so this strongly affects the influence almost all aspects of the systems we manage. And this then gets us back to what we have showed earlier. The inter-office politics and the human nature of neatly creating tribal allegiances based on some sort of us versus them feeling, and guess what? That's really not helping at all. Instead, it's important that the system administrators understand how to work with other people from all different backgrounds because no matter how much No matter how much we may like to focus on the technical aspects of our job, we have to remember that solving the technical problems is the easiest part. Even if debugging your load balancers or trying to unwedge Git of tracking down that one word bug may take you hours, it's still a lot easier than dealing with people. Programming and everything surrounding the internet and the management of the systems that make up the internet. All that is really a social thing, something that requires understanding of human beings and their motivations. Computering and its heart is a people problem. And so, with everything covered in mind, to think of system administration as profession where you primarily solve problems of the people. Sure, oftentimes this involves computering at its heart is a people problem. Don't forget that. Sure, oftentimes this involves computering a bit harder than they did and spending a lot of time convincing computers to do the thing you meant them to do. Not the thing you told them to do, but the end goal remains to solve people problems, to manage the resources and systems you're in charge on behalf of the organization and the public interest in mind. And that then is a job of the system administrator and what will focus on this class. Okay, so now having a bit more of an idea of what a system administrator may do, let's take a break. I encourage you to research a bit about the job description of the difference between sysadmins, DevOps, and SRAs, and follow the link included in this slide. Having covered a bit of what, we'll then use our having covered it a bit with what, we'll then use to talk a bit more about the how of system administration and discuss what I term the core pillars of exceptional system design: scalability, security, and simplicity. We'll also cover a few guiding principles and several meme-worthy laws of system administration and software engineering. And finally, we talk about why people think that the internet looks like this, but we system admins having peeked a bit under the hood now that in fact it's look more like this. All right. So that's the job of a systems administrator.